You're listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Tanner Munson. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.
Hi, it's Louisa Tanner Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'd like to welcome you to this podcast on the North Node in the 7th house. In this podcast, I'm going to be exploring the impact of being born with the North Node in the 7th house, i.e. having it in your birth chart within the 7th house, or what happens when the North Node transits, i.e. moves through the 7th house, what kind of things might occur. So it's a two-part podcast really about the North Node and the 7th house. So I guess before we get started, we have to have an understanding of what the North Node does in a birth chart, the effects it has, and also what does the 7th house rule is quite important to know. So the North Node, I think, is like the karmic compass point of our life. It shows us the karmic direction that we're heading in. It shows us our purpose and the things that we find challenging but will give us the most reward. So it's a really significant point, and the North Node doesn't come alone. It comes with its friend, the South Node. Now the South Node is always in opposition, i.e. is always 180 degrees away from the North Node. A bit like if you're looking at north and south on a compass, you have them going in opposite directions. So the South Node represents what you've already achieved, what you've already gained dominion over, what you have experience on, what you've already passed the exams in, so to speak, the karmic exams. So often, and it depends if you believe in past lives. If you have a belief in past life experiences, then the South Node would represent what you have been born into this lifetime with the experience of understanding in previous lifetimes. And, if the South Node doesn't represent past lives to you, then it just shows kind of what you're born with, what gifts you have an innate understanding for. So the South Node shows where we're coming from a level of expertise, and the North Node shows the direction we're heading in, i.e. our most current and fresh lesson in life. So it's an interesting one to look at in the birth chart. Now, seeing as we're looking at the North and the South Node, you can't consider one without the other. The same goes with the 7th house, because the 7th house represents everything that you're not. The 7th house represents all the people in your life. So your lover, your husband or wife, your best friend, your friends, your enemies. Every person that you have an interaction with is represented in the 7th house. And the opposing house, at the opposite side of your birth chart, is the house of you. It's the first house that represents your identity and how you think of yourself, the identity that you strive for, how you come across to people on first meetings, is all covered in the first house. Now the 7th house, so it represents everything that's not you, but it also represents what you're projecting onto the other person. So those parts of you that you don't see in yourself in the first house are put onto the other people. So the 7th house often shows what we're blind about in our own lives about ourselves because we keep attracting the same kinds of people again and again and again with the same kind of moral and karmic reasons. So the 7th house is almost a bit like I like to think of it as a bit of a cosmic joke because it really shows up some of the development that we're doing via the medium of our relationships with other people. So let's consider now what it would be like to have the North Node in the 7th house. So your karmic direction is about understanding your relationship with other people and understanding the difference between you and other people. You've come into this lifetime with the South Node in the first house, which shows that you've already established your identity and you have had successive lifetimes, or you just have a certain knack in understanding who you are. There's no questions about who you are. But your task in life is in understanding other people and understanding your role in relationship to other people and somehow making it work. It's a huge inheritance, isn't it? As a lifetime theme. Now, that those daring of you might want to consider, what is it about these other people that I'm in relationship with that I find difficult? Because that's probably an aspect of yourself that you're projecting judgment onto the other person. Like, for instance, timekeeping or something. Like if you've got loads of friends that always just seem to be late and seem to be irresponsible, it might be that there's a part of you that's so controlled in your actual identity that you're failing to see where your irresponsibility lies. So can you see how that works? So a 7th house North Node shows quite a lot of determination to understand yourself in relationship to other people. It can also show a bit of a struggle with your friendships and with your relationships. It's not unheard of for people with a 7th house North Node to have epochs of friendships, to have one set of friends and then it gets difficult and you can't kind of move beyond that. Only to find yourself with another set of friends that you experience similar themes with. There's that old phrase that wherever you go, there you are. To try and put that into context, you can leave the past behind, but any unresolved business that you have with other people, you will find in your new location or place. For instance, I sometimes find bossy people quite difficult. Possibly because I'm not comfortable with my own level of bossiness or don't see it in myself, but I see it I project it onto other people. So I find people that tell me what to do or, don't give me the space that I think I need to understand myself. I find it very difficult, and I've attracted, probably because I'm slightly frightened of people who are that straightforward. I attract lots of bossy older women into my life who want to almost mother me or tell me what to do. And I have several times left businesses or, moved houses and moved away from neighbours and thought, oh, great. New start then. I can get rid of that bossy person, that person that I failed to interact with and resolve that issue with. And then, sure enough, there's one living next door to me in my new house. That's what I'm referring to. So there is an element of that going on. And it might be that you experience it in your friendships or via the medium of your actual relationships, i.e. love partners or sexual partners. So it's a huge message to us to invest the time to work on the projections and work on the issues that these people are bringing. Sometimes, for instance, a North Node that has very difficult aspects to signs such as Pluto and Uranus and Chiron and Saturn have confusing or disruptive relationships with the opposite sex, or even the same sex, sorry. That they have disrupted, possibly power played relationships with people. And what they're doing is actually, through the North Node, attracting the lower end of the spectrum of transformation. So Pluto, for instance, represents transformation, but at a really low vibrational level. It represents people who are tyrannical and dictatorial. If you were to attract somebody at the higher end of the expression of transformation, you might meet a guru or somebody who's inspired and wants to transform by giving you the opportunity to notice it yourself. If you have a low-end Uranus connection with your North Node, or an unexplored connection with that aspect in your chart, then you might find that you're meeting people who are completely unreliable and spontaneous and sporadic and probably quite explosive. And And yet at the higher end of the Uranus expression connected with your North Node, you might find that you meet someone who's a free thinker and who is inspiring because they are encouraging you to free up your mind and be spontaneous and enjoy yourself. And so, there are no absolutes, but where you don't use the energy to grow and develop yourself, you'll find you'll be attracting people at the lower end of the planetary spectrum of all the planets that aspect your North Node. And that the peace comes for you when you've dealt with those people and understood what you needed to learn. And then, hey presto, your North Node will start to express itself with you attracting the positive ends of those people. So it's quite a tricky one to learn, the North Node in the 7th house. Now, if the North Node is travelling through your 7th house currently, it's showing that you are going through a time of understanding people. So for the next 18 months or so, possibly up to 2 years, your life is about coming to understand other people's perspectives and understanding your place in the relationships with the people that you've got. Sorting through if those relationships are the ones that are going to take you forward on your karma. Working out which ones you want to keep and which ones you're quite happy to ditch. It also shows that you've learnt a lot over the last 18 months when your North Node was in the 8th house. Because when the North Node was in the 8th house, you had to deal with the uncovering of secrets, possibly family secrets or secrets to do with your joint finances with a partner or a friend, or just general upsets about very sensitive subjects. So there was a lot of sensitivity and offence during the time when the North Node was transiting through your 8th house. And if it's now in your 7th house, then hurrah, because most of the hard work of the 8th house has been done. But now you have a new set of filters and boundaries and tools and strategies to be able to work out who's right for you and who's not, and how you can upgrade the kinds of people around you. What kinds of people would motivate and inspire you now? So your North Node, your current karmic direction that you're going in is about expansion and finding the right people around you to expand into. And also the knowing that when you do fall out or find other people quite challenging, it's because there's something going on, something's being projected from your dark side, or from that side of you that you're unwilling or unable to look at. So this can be quite a healing point for you in your astrology. So that's a quick look at both the impacts of having the North Node in the 7th house and also having it transiting through the 7th house. If listening to this has brought up any ideas or issues or anything that you'd like me to explore, then please feel free to drop me a line. You can reach me at louisa@feelgoodastrology.com, and we can set aside some time for a consultation. Anyway, take care for now.
You've been listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Tanner Munson, and this recording has been made possible by all you lovely supporters at Patreon. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.